Student opens fire at the Czech Republic's Charles University, killing at least 14.
Authorities warn the public that the death toll could also rise. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Ninoy Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. LTFRB monitors terminals during the holiday rush. Philippines is committed to resist coercion in the West Philippine Sea. Hamas militant group rules out any more hostage releases until Israel's aggression ends. Russia launches its Soyuz rocket, sending a military satellite into orbit. And Filipino-American comedian Joe Coy is set to host the 2024 Golden Globes.
Las Vegas, Nevada,
España,
Paris, France,
United Kingdom,
Washington, D.C.,
London, Europe, Papua New Guinea,
in New York,
Washington, D.C.
Mata ng Agila, Mata ng Agila,
Mata ng Agila International.
Trusted, connected,
On point. The Land Transportation and Regulatory or Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, is keeping a vigilant eye on public and private terminals nationwide amid the holiday rush. Vin Pascua tells us more.
This watchful stance is part of the Oplan Bantay Biyahe 2023 initiative, a dedicated effort by the agency to guarantee a secure and pleasant public transportation experience throughout the holiday season. It addressed commuters' concerns and queries. Complaint and public assistance help desk have been set up at these terminals. In anticipation of the holiday surge, the LTFRB has also issued a special permit for the operation of 1,080 passenger buses. This permit spans from December 15 to January 14 of the following year, aligning with the expected return of travelers. This move will augment the total number of passenger buses in operation by up to 30%, ensuring smoother travel during the holiday exodus. As the Manila International Airport Authority foresees a daily influx of more than 145,000 passengers, the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange is gearing up for an expected surge of 2.6 million passengers. Meanwhile, the Philippine Ports Authority, or PPA, is intensifying security measures to accommodate around 5.1 million passengers during this holiday season. Vin Pascua for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Manila International Airport Authority, or MIAA, has anticipated an uptick in passengers arriving at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, or NAIA. MIAA forecasted that 140,000 to 145,000 passengers daily are set to arrive within the long weekend. MIAA disclosed that the passenger volume reached over 142,000 last Saturday, December 16, marking the highest in the month of December. An almost 13% increase in the number of passengers compared to the same day in 2022. Meanwhile, the queues at other check-in counters are noticeably longer, particularly for domestic flights. MIAA and airline companies, however, continue to remind passengers to get to the airport 3 to 4 hours before their flight is set to board.
The Reciprocal Access Agreement between the Philippines and Japan is poised for signing next year, marking a significant step in fortifying the bilateral relations between the two nations. Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. explained that Philippine authorities are currently reviewing the counter-draft from Tokyo and are in the process of formulating comments on it. He conveyed his hope for the draft's approval in the first quarter of 2024, paving the way for prompt ratification by the Senate. This agreement mirrors a visiting forces agreement facilitating the temporary, unrestricted movement of troops between the two nations. Teodoro highlighted the likelihood of additional collaborations between Manila and Tokyo in the realm of defense and military equipment. Japan has recently turned over an air surveillance radar system in La Union, with 3 more units purchased by the Philippines expected to arrive in the coming years.
Concerning news for motorists looking to drive around for the holidays, as a big-time oil pump price hike looms next week. Department of Energy Oil Industry Bureau forecasts a 1 peso and 40 centavo to 1 peso and 60 centavo increase per liter in gasoline and diesel. Meanwhile, kerosene price per liter is predicted to go up by 1 peso and 60 centavos to 1 peso and 80 centavos per liter.
According to a recent survey conducted by the social weather stations, the number of unemployed Filipinos has shown improvement, decreasing to 7.9 million in September 2023. The survey, conducted from September 28th to October the 1st, revealed a positive trend, with the adult joblessness rate dropping to 16.9%, a notable decline from the 22.8% recorded in June of 2023. Adults categorized as jobless encompass individuals who left their previous positions voluntarily, those actively seeking employment for the first time, or those who lost their jobs due to economic factors beyond their control, including retrenchment. Analyzing regional variations, Balanced Luzon exhibited the most substantial reduction in the unemployment rate at 20.8%, followed by Metro Manila at 19.2%, Mindanao at 12.4%, and the Visayan region at 12.2%. The survey also unveiled a correlation between joblessness and the incidence of involuntary hunger. Families of jobless adults experience a higher incidence of involuntary hunger at 17.7%, which is double the rate observed in families where adults are employed or engaged in livelihood activities, standing at 8.6%.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas said that economic managers in the country have kept the inflation target at 2 to 4% for next year up to 2026. The decision was settled during an Interagency Development Budget Coordination Committee meeting last December 15. In a statement, the central bank said, and I quote, "The inflation target range of 3.0% plus or minus 1.0% point 2 to 4% remains an appropriate representation of the medium-term goal for price stability. Given the current structure of the Philippine economy, recent economic developments, and the overall macroeconomic outlook over the next few years." In 2002, the central bank adopted inflation targeting in line with its mandate to promote price stability towards balanced and sustainable economic growth of the country.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has asserted the commitment of his government to resist coercion in the West Philippine Sea, responding decisively in the wake of a stern warning from Beijing.
Itself in the middle of geopolitical developments and tensions that could potentially cause regional insecurity or endanger people's lives and livelihoods. But despite the many attempts at provocation, the Philippines, through the AFP, remains a force and a voice of reason, exemplifying responsible and dignified behavior in resolving issues in accordance with international law.
The recent caution from China urged the Philippines to exercise caution in disputed waters, signaling a strain in bilateral relations. Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo received the warning during a telephone conversation with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, who emphasized that the two nations stand at a critical juncture.
希望菲方理智抉择，遵循邻里相处的有效之道，和中方一道妥善处理和管控好当前海上局势。
Wang Yi attributed the difficulties in relations to perceived shifts in Philippine policies, accusing Manila of not adhering to supposed promises and consistently provoking tensions, thus undermining China's perceived rights in the West Philippine Sea. While not directly addressing China's warnings, President Marcos conveyed the Philippines' unwavering commitment to uphold its rights in alignment with the Constitution and international law.
Coming up, Angola announces their split from OPEC Plus due to output cuts. Donald Trump's on-again, off-again legal aid Rudy Giuliani files for bankruptcy. And not long after Toyota makes major recalls, Honda recalls 2 million units. Stay tuned. Matanang Agila International will return for more global news.
Viral ngayon, motorcycle rider na nagsauli ng naiwang pera ng kanyang pasahero. Ating kilalanin.
Napaka-honest po ng ating mga kapwa Pilipino.
Opo, sir. Congratulations! Isang ina na naglalabada para may taguyod ang anak sa kabila ng putol niyang kaliwang paa, ating rerespondihan. Exclusive! Senior citizen na mag-asawa na nagtatrabaho pa rin bilang mga sapatero, ating nirespondihan.
Malaking bagay po itong pagtulong nyo sa amin sa ngayon.
Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi, ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Let's get together, Sunday 25.
Welcome back to Matanang Agila International. Opposition politicians in India's parliament staged a protest after the government suspended dozens of opposition lawmakers. More than 140 parliamentarians have been suspended over the past week for demanding a statement from the Home Minister about a security breach. Percy Parlade reports.
The incident in question took place December 13th when two people in the visitors' gallery jumped down to the chamber and released smoke bombs. That caused panic and disrupted proceedings. Since then, opposition members have been demanding a response from the government. The government said members would have to wait for the findings of an inquiry into the incident. After pressing for a discussion of the breach in Parliament, the government accused the opposition of creating disorder. On Thursday, dozens of opposition members protested outside Parliament. They chanted slogans and waved placards reading, "Save Democracy and Parliament Caged. Democracy expelled." Their suspension ends today, Friday. Percival Parlade for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Angola intends to withdraw from OPEC Plus, saying it will leave the oil bloc over a disagreement regarding production quotas. RT correspondent Noluvoyu Kunge reports.
that decision was applauded by many on the African continent, with experts saying that Angola is correct to contest, especially due to the way in which OPEC determined the quotas for 3 African countries differently, and those countries being Angola, Congo Brazzaville, and Nigeria as well. Now, Angola's membership in the OPEC group has long been part of its identity as a great oil state within the African continent with significant influence within the global economy. Its government has recently said that Angola has been part of the OPEC group and a member of that group for 16 years. And during that period, they have fully complied with all the regulations and the laws owed to the organization. But the recent request just did not make sense for the Angolan economy. And indeed, times have changed. This year, only Gabon hit its OPEC production quota, with the continent's crude producers facing underinvestment and instability. And in the past, many African producers have regularly exceeded their quotas, fueling debates about non-compliance. However, the continent's producers recently, particularly heavyweights like Nigeria and Angola, have seen crude output collapsing, causing them to miss their OPEC quotas. And for years, because oil is the backbone of Angola's economy, it's been said that it makes no sense for Angola to continue being in the OPEC group, where it is burning millions of dollars daily due to cuts imposed by the organization, considering the fact that the country is in an economic self-mutilation. It has also been said that Angola has been sacrificing its own people to benefit other economies, which means that if Angola was outside of the organization, it wouldn't have to cut and would always have to benefit from those cuts, because as many on the continent have said, or rather claimed, the cartel would not cease to exist if Angola leaves it. It has now left, and it remains to be seen how much of an impact the exit will cause on the organization, if any.
The Ukrainian forces hit Donetsk residential area with Slovakian cluster shells. The city's trauma center responded to the scene to rush victims to the hospital. Artist Roman Kosarev reports.
Ukrainian nationalists continue their war against civilian population here in Donetsk Republic. 4 people were wounded at this Donetsk trauma center on Wednesday, including 1 doctor. Thankfully, no one was killed. Now, Ukraine once again used modified multiple launch rocket systems called Grad from Slovakia. Now, those rockets carry at least 9,000 fragments like this one's metal spheres. As you can see, the entire wall is full of these shrapnel holes.
Ukrainian forces shelled the Kievsky district of the city of Donetsk. The strikes exclusively hit the residential sector. The central trauma hospital came under fire. You can see the typical destruction. The windows have been blown out. Unfortunately, we know that people were wounded, including hospital staff and patients. Shrapnel was recovered from the scene and will be transferred to investigators for examination. It appears that the shelling was conducted using a multiple launch rocket system manufactured in Slovakia and JROF high explosive fragmentation rocket projectiles. We found the striking elements which the Ukrainian forces had filled their rockets with.
Many wounded come to this Donetsk trauma center to get healed by doctors, and this is yet another example of a war crime by Ukrainian nationalists. This is the place where the rocket struck. The crater is right here at the moment. The specialists are trying to determine where this particular shell came from, but this is not the only place that was struck by Ukrainian nationalists on Wednesday, as at least 10 civilians were wounded, including 6 medical workers.
The hospital hasn't stopped providing assistance to the injured for a single minute, neither at the time of the shelling, immediately after it, nor at the present time. The hospital is now functioning as usual, providing medical assistance in full. At the same time, we're trying to clear up the damage done by the shelling. This is the 4th heavy strike we have experienced this year, each causing varying degrees of damage.
Ukrainian army seem to be targeting exclusively civilian infrastructure and civilian areas. We are now in a local public transportation depot where at least 11 trolley buses were damaged and 2 of them were destroyed completely. Now, this is the crater from yet another shell from a multiple launch rocket system called Grad, but modified in Slovakia. Once again, those types of rockets contain at least 9,000 metal shrapnel spheres which are designed to inflict as much damage as possible, both to people and infrastructure. Roman Kosarev, RT, Donetsk Republic.
The European Union has paid the final tranche of a multi-billion euro support package to Ukraine to help keep its war-ravaged economy afloat this year, leaving the country without a financial lifeline from Europe as of next month. The EU has sent 1.5 billion euros each month in 2023 to ensure macroeconomic stability and rebuild critical infrastructure destroyed in the war, aside from assisting with their wage payments and pensions to keep hospitals and schools running. To ensure that Ukraine has predictable, longer-term income, the EU's executive branch, the European Commission, proposed to provide the country with an additional 50 billion euros. At a summit last week, 26 of the 27 nation bloc's leaders endorsed the plan, but Hungary imposed a veto. The 50 billion euro package was included in a revision of the bloc's long-term budget, citing that more money is needed to pay for EU policy priorities given the fallout from the war, including high energy prices and inflation, and recovery from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The decision came as a major blow to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, days after he had failed to persuade U.S. lawmakers to approve an additional $61 billion for his war effort. Hungary's nationalist leader, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, is widely considered to be Russian President Vladimir Putin's closest ally in the EU, as critics accuse him of putting Moscow's interests ahead of those of his European Union and NATO allies. Orbán has called for an immediate end to the fighting, which has ground on for almost 2 years, and pushed for peace talks between Moscow and Kyiv. The EU has provided almost 85 billion euros in financial, humanitarian, emergency budget, and military support to Ukraine since 2022.
Lawyers for former United States President Donald Trump may ask the Supreme Court to rule on whether he can use presidential immunity to avoid a defamation lawsuit from the writer Jean Carroll. Trump's lawyers also asked for the trials set for mid-January to be delayed. Trump's appeal to the Supreme Court is the second immunity-related matter to head to the court. Special counsel Jack Smith previously asked the court to immediately resolve Trump's claim that he's immune from prosecution for charges related to his bid to subvert the 2020 presidential election.
Former mayor of New York and Trump aide Rudy Giuliani has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy days after he was ordered to pay more than $148 million to a mother-daughter pair of election workers he defamed in the aftermath of the 2020 presidential election. The man once hailed as America's mayor filed his bankruptcy in New York a day after the federal judge ordered him to immediately pay the women, pointing out his history of being uncooperative with litigation, raising concerns over his intention to conceal his assets during any appeals. Judge Howell had already found Mr. Giuliani liable for defamation in a damning pretrial ruling earlier this year. A 4-day trial in Washington, D.C. sought to determine how much he owed. Ms. Moss, who was a clerical worker in a county election office, and Ms. Freeman, her mother, who had taken a temporary job to help count ballots, were subject to relentless abuse, threats, and racist attacks in the wake of the 2020 election. Last week, an 8-member jury unanimously agreed that Donald Trump's former attorney owes Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss $16.2 million and $16.99 million, respectively, in compensatory damages and an additional $20 million each for intentional infliction of emotional distress, as well as a further $75 million in punitive damages.
A top-level U.S. delegation will be heading to Mexico to discuss concerns on migration. This after telephone talks between President Joe Biden and Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. Christian Fregata tells us more.
President Joe Biden asked Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, and White House Homeland Security Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall to travel to Mexico in the coming days. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says the Biden team will meet with President Lopez Obrador and his team to discuss further collaborative actions to address current border challenges. The talks and trip come as the Republican Party pushes Biden's Democrats for major changes on immigration policy in exchange for approving a package of emergency assistance for Ukraine and Israel. Kirby says there has been a dramatic increase in migration across the border, largely from violence-ravaged Central American nations. Kirby says Biden and Lopez Obrador share a similar concern about the increase in migratory flow in recent weeks. He says the two presidents talked over the phone in broad terms about what can be done inside Mexico to slow that process down. Ideas include stepping up checkpoints on rail lines and highways and expanding the security presence on Mexico's southern border. In Washington, D.C., Kristen Fregata from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Hamas has ruled out any more hostage releases until Israel agrees to a full cessation of aggression. Israel says it has killed more than 2,000 Hamas fighters in Gaza since a truce earlier this month, when more than 100 hostages were freed. Efforts continue at the United Nations to pass a resolution on the war. The U.S. has said it still has serious concerns over the draft UN Security Council resolution, with voting now postponed another day. The week-long truce this month also brought an increased flow of aid into Gaza, where the UN has warned that the population is at risk of famine if the war between Israel and Hamas continues. Negotiations on a new truce have been taking place in Cairo, Egypt, though initial talks on Wednesday bore no agreement. It is unclear to which other Palestinian factions the statement was referring. Islamic Jihad, a smaller group in the Gaza Strip, is among those known to also be holding Israeli hostages. Hamas' statement puts the Israeli government in a very difficult position because of the IDF's perception that the best way to get the release of hostages is military pressure on Hamas and by staging rescue operations, which have been widely unsuccessful, only resulting in one hostage rescue among the thousands of casualties.
فقد أثبتت عمليات العدو الفاشلة والمرتبكة ما أعلناه منذ اليوم الأول للحرب بأن مسار هذه القضية هو التبادل. فاستمرار العدوان لا يسمح أصلا بإطلاق سراح الأسرى مطلقا، فضلا عن إمكانية تحريرهم بالعمليات العسكرية المباشرة. لذلك إذا أراد العدو وجمهوره أسراهم أحياء فليس أمامهم سوى وقف العدوان.
Honda Motor is initiating a recall of more than 2.5 million vehicles in the United States due to a fuel pump defect that poses an increased risk of engine failure or stalling while driving. Documents published by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, reveal that the fuel pump impeller used in 2017 to 2020 Acura and Honda vehicles was improperly molded, resulting in low-density impellers. Over time, these impellers can deform and interfere with the fuel pump body, rendering it inoperative and elevating the potential for crashes and injuries. Although Honda has not received any crash or injury reports related to the document, the company is committed to replacing the faulty fuel pumps for all affected vehicles at no cost. The recall will be carried out in separate phases, with the initial batch of owner notification letters scheduled for distribution in February. To verify if a specific vehicle is part of this recall, drivers can use the NHTSA site and Honda and Acura's recall lookup platforms.
Up next, a mass shooting at a university in Prague rocks the peaceful European capital. Junior doctors all around the UK stage a mass walkout in the busiest time of the year. And Russia launches a new military satellite. Mata ng Agila International will be back after a short break.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
The Department of Trade and Industry Undersecretary Mary Jean Pacheco, also the lead for Digital Philippines and e-commerce, takes on the secrets behind the digital revolution shaping how we buy, sell, and innovate in today's market. Get ready to explore the evolution of digital commerce and the game-changing insights driving the future of e-commerce in an increasingly connected world, especially for MSMEs.
The Philippines is one of the most top-performing internet economies in Southeast Asia. Positive yung growth natin. Nakikita natin na bubulusok pa ang ating e-commerce.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Let's get together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
A student opened fire at a university in Prague, killing at least 14 people and injuring more than 20 in the Czech Republic's worst mass shooting in years. The incident took place in the philosophy department building of Charles University, where the shooter was enrolled as a student. Prague Police Chief Martin Vondrasek said in the evening that 14 people had died and 25 were injured. But the gunman was also eliminated during the incident, raising the death toll to 15. The authorities warned the public that the death toll could also rise. Police gave no details about the victims or a possible motive for the shooting at the building, though Czech Interior Minister Vít Rakusan said investigators do not suspect a link to any extremist ideology or groups. Police Chief Martin Vondrasek says police had been searching for the man before the mass shooting after they discovered the body of his father in the village of Hoston, west of Prague. Later Thursday, Vondrasek said that based on a search of his home, the gunman was also suspected in the killing of another man and his 2-month-old daughter at an earlier date. The chief described the shooter as an excellent student with no criminal record, but didn't provide any other information. The gunman suffered several injuries due to multiple exchanges of gunfire with police officers, adding that there was nothing in the preliminary investigation to suggest that he had any accomplices. Previously, the nation's worst mass shooting was in 2015, when a gunman opened fire in the southeastern town of Uherský Brod, killing 8 before eventually meeting his untoward end. The Czech government declared Saturday a national day of mourning to honor the victims of this tragedy.
Nejprve znovu bych chtěl vyjádřit upřímnou soustrast rodinám a pozůstalým všech obětí a popřát všem zraněným brzké uzdravení. 23. prosinec bude dnem státního smutku k uctění památky obětí bezprecedentního útoku střelce v Praze.
Já bych nejprve rád vyjádřil velký smutek a zároveň taky bezmocný vztek nad naprosto zbytečnou ztrátou tolika mladých životů.
A Florida man identified as 33-year-old Baruch Rosh is facing potential federal prison time of up to 1 year for attempting to forcibly enter a U.S. Air Force base while armed with an AR-15 rifle, all while claiming to be Captain America. Russia's actions, which occurred on November the 3rd, led to his indictment on one count of attempted possession of a firearm in a federal facility. He drove up to the gate at the MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa in a green Hyundai Genesis, demanding entry and asserting that he had a meeting with Air Force officials to share top-secret information. However, when asked for identification, Rush refused and insisted that he was Captain America. As the situation escalated, Rush became argumentative and threatened to return daily to seek entry, prompting security measures. Concerned about his behavior, authorities detained him, and he was subsequently involuntarily hospitalized under Florida's Baker Act, allowing for compelled treatment in situations involving a mental health crisis.
Firefighters in Australia have their hands full trying to control a spate of bushfires. The blazes have destroyed at least 2 homes and injured 2 people. Emi Capilita Roja has the report.
Hot and windy conditions are fueling the fires, which are threatening a suburb on the outskirts of Perth on the west coast of Australia. Officials blame a tree branch falling on a power line for sparking the blaze. Authorities have issued an emergency warning for the fire. Several blazes are burning in other parts of the state of Western Australia. On the opposite side of the country, in New South Wales, air quality in Sydney is among the worst in the world. Smoke from bushfires is blanketing the city. People are being told to avoid going outdoors. It has also drifted across the Tasman Sea to New Zealand. Emi Capilita Roja for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Junior doctors across England have walked out again for a 26th day of strike action in their pay dispute with the UK government. From Great Britain, Hilary Mendoza reports.
Hospital doctors in England begin their longest strike action in a move that health bosses fear will pile pressures on services at the busiest time of the year. Junior doctors who are below consultant level are set to boost their ongoing pay dispute. They'll be making their standby, joining picket lines from 7 a.m., and they won't back down until the same time on Saturday. This move marks a significant step up in their fight for fair play. The strike comes at one of the busiest times of the year for the NHS, as it faces increased pressure from seasonal respiratory illnesses. Health policy is a devolved matter for the administrations in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, with the UK government overseeing England. Junior doctors in Wales are due to walk out for 72 hours starting January 15. Doctors in Ireland are being asked about the possibility of going on strike. Meanwhile, those in Scotland have successfully negotiated a deal with the government in Edinburgh. The NHS typically sees a rise in the number of people in hospital in the 2 weeks after the holiday season due to people delaying seeking treatment to spend the festive season with loved ones. Reporting from Edinburgh, Great Britain, I am Hilary Mendoza from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A strike by French Eurostar rail workers that threatened the travel plans of thousands of people has been settled. Rail service between France and the United Kingdom through the tunnel under the English Channel is set to resume today. Anne-Marie Gonzalez reports.
The Wildcat walkout Thursday paralyzed train travel between France and Britain, leaving thousands of people in several countries stranded. This is the scene at a railway station in London, England. Freight traffic has also been halted. The job action came after workers rejected an end-of-the-year bonus of $1,100 and demanded it be tripled. Following negotiations with management, the unions called off the walkout. The announcement of the cancellation of services sparked dismay in train stations. Holiday travelers scrambled to change their reservations on their phones or even book last-minute flights. The Channel Tunnel opened in 1994. It carries passengers on Eurostar trains as well as cars and freight vehicles on special cargo shuttles. Anne-Marie Gonzalez from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
A recent survey reveals that Canadians are worrying much about inflation, housing, and food in the coming year. Yolanda Espiras has that story.
The year 2023 will be ending with majority of Canadians in extreme worry and pessimism about the present and the future, a recent poll reports. The 2023 Canadian Poverty and Socio-Economic Analysis reports that most Canadians are seriously concerned about inflation, housing security, and food affordability. Single-parent families face the hardest struggles and report that they do not have enough income to cover their basic needs. 21% of Canadians report that they skip or reduce the size of at least one meal because they cannot afford to buy enough groceries. Parents report that they are eating less, so their children and other family members can eat. Additionally, the federal government has announced increases in pension and employment insurance taxes next year that may cost an additional $300 deducted from salary per Canadian worker. 1 in 3 Canadians report that they are concerned about their future personal finances, and over 40% are struggling mentally, which overall is not surprising, as worries about not being able to afford basic food and shelter take a toll on a personal overall well-being. In Toronto, Ontario, Yolanda Espiras for Matenang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Meanwhile, Canada has said farewell to single-use plastics, at least for now. The government's regulation banning the items has been ruled unconstitutional, but it has asked the court to stay in order quashing the ban while it appeals the decision. Thomas Eyelikeness tells us more.
Some of the things no longer allowed are those plastic checkout bags, plastic straws, food containers, and those plastic knives and forks that you get with a takeout meal. 4 years ago, in 2019, worldwide, people produced an estimated 353 million tons of plastic waste. Canada's share of that is 3 million tons. Those grocery bags? The Canadian government figures 15 billion. 15 billion of them end up in the country's landfills, where they take at least 10 to 20 years to decompose. Other single-use plastics can take longer. The Canadian government wants to achieve zero plastic waste by the end of the decade. So what's happening with the ban? For now, it stays in effect until the appeal quashing it is heard. Oil and chemical companies had successfully challenged the ban, calling it unreasonable and unconstitutional. And while we wait for the points of law to be settled, Canadian Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault says the science is clear. Plastic pollution is everywhere, and it harms wildlife and damages the environment. Quite simply, we're drowning in the stuff. Thomas Eyelikeness for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Google Brain co-founder Andrew Ng says he tried to get ChatGPT to destroy everyone on the planet. Concerns over the dark side of artificial intelligence, or AI, have emerged as many experts warn that someday machines would rule the world and wipe off humanity. But Ng says AI is safe, adding that he asked ChatGPT 4 ways to exterminate humanity. Ng started by asking the system for a function to trigger global thermonuclear war and reduce carbon emissions. But he did not manage to trick ChatGPT into destroying every people on the planet. He says existing technology systems are quite safe since AI research progresses, and it will become even safer.
Russia says it has successfully launched a rocket from a northern cosmodrome that it says will serve the interests of its defense ministry. The defense ministry says the Soyuz 2.1B rocket carried a military space installation. Elise Danielle has more.
Observers spotted the rocket over Norway shortly after blasting off from the Plessis Cosmodrome. That's where most military launchers are made. The rocket carried a military satellite into a low Earth orbit. Russia is trying to modernize its defense capabilities. Part of that includes upgrading and increasing its collection of military satellites. They are essential to national security, communications, and surveillance. Elise Daniel for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up. Peruvian authorities have seized over 4,000 baby turtles from smugglers. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has released a shortlist for movies included in next year's Oscars. And Philam comedian Jokoy is set to host the 81st Annual Golden Globe Awards. Catch more news in sports and entertainment when we return.
Sa kanyang walang sawang paghahatid ng ngiti sa atin kada umaga, ang ating Kanet 25 na si Pia Guanyo Mago ay nominado sa isang prestihiyosong parangal. Congratulations, Miss Pia Guanyo Mago! Nominated as Best Talk Show Host, Asian Television Awards. Ang pagkilalang ito ay patunay lamang ng inyong sipag at dedikasyon sa pagpapasaya sa bawat Pilipino. You make us proud, Kanet 25.
Authorities have seized some 4,000 turtles that originated in the Amazon at the country's main international airport. Naya Dames tells us more.
Peru's National Forestry and Wildlife Service says it has intercepted a shipment of live turtles at the Jorge Chavez Airport. The turtles were headed to Indonesia. Among the reptiles were baby arrau turtles, the largest river turtle in South America, and the yellow-spotted river turtle. They were hidden in small transparent plastic containers inside cardboard boxes. Both turtles are listed as endangered species of wild fauna and flora. These require the tracking and regulation of trade. The International Union for Conservation of Nature lists the yellow-spotted river turtle as vulnerable to extinction. It is the second largest freshwater turtle in the Amazon. Interpol says the black market for illegal wildlife products is worth up to $20 billion per year. It pushes many species to the brink of extinction. Tortoises and turtles are among the most threatened groups of animals in the world. Nai Dames for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Netflix has opened the interactive Squid Game challenge test for fans to enjoy in Los Angeles. Dubbed Squid Game The Trials, fans of all ages can relive the moments of Netflix's South Korean hit show. Players are greeted by the frontman who oversees the games. Organizers prepared a series of rooms with harmless versions of the brutal games depicted in the film. Among the classic Squid Game challenges are the Glass Bridge, the Dalgona Candy Game, and the runaway favorite Red Light, Green Light. Participants wear wristbands that buzz when they are out in the challenge.
I didn't win, but it's so funny that even without the $4.56 million cash prize, you really feel the stakes in the game. Like, I found myself sweating and shaking, and I would do it again, 100%.
But we were definitely taking pointers from the game show, like don't sit in like a weird position, I guess, when you're stopping or when it's red.
Twenty-six-year-old actress Sydney Sweeney slams critics' accusations of her being a sexual object in Hollywood. Sydney acknowledges this narrative by confidently saying that she feels sexy and strong when she embraces her femininity. Catherine Ortula has the scoop.
Known for her role in the mature-themed teen drama Euphoria, Sydney Sweeney continues to gain attention for her recent feat of starring in the Rolling Stones music video Angry. Critics were quick to point out Sweeney's role in the video, which allegedly shows another example of women being objectified by the media. The actress shares her response to these comments during an interview for a UK magazine, saying that she finds also endorses and represents famous brands such as Armani and Ford. This month, Sweeney will star in Sony Pictures' new romantic comedy Connected on Point.
The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has unveiled the shortlists in 10 categories for the upcoming 96 Oscars ceremony. Elijah Villanueva has the details.
Think about it. Well,
it's a long night. Long night.
Dark Knight's Lucius Fox hang out with the incomparable Barbie.
That is a gorgeous dress you're wearing.
Oh, thank you so much. It's from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
And the Oscar goes to
Greta Gerwig's meta-comedy, Barbie, secured the most mentions overall with 5 spanning categories like sound and original song. Barbie received original song nominations for submissions by Billie Eilish, Dua Lipa, and Mark Ronson with Andrew Wyatt. Notable exclusions from this category included The Color Purple and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, while A24's Beau is Afraid and Universal Pictures' horror summer film The Last Voyage of the Demeter secured spots. The music categories featured compositions from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Oppenheimer, and Killers of the Flower Moon. Predictions for the other categories such as documentary feature, international feature, live-action short film, and more can be found on the Academy's website.
There is greatness in every single person. It doesn't matter who they are. You have a genius that is waiting to erupt. You just need to find the right people to unlock that. Thank you so much to everyone who has unlocked my genius.
Dreams are something you have to believe in. I almost gave up on mine. To all of you out there, please keep your dreams alive.
Elijah Villanueva for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Filipino-American comedian and actor Jokoy is set to host the 2024 Golden Globes.
I'm making this video because I'm super excited to announce that the Golden Globes are in a couple of weeks, and you're probably wondering who the host is. It's me, Joe Coy. That's right. Sunday, January 7th, you can watch the Golden Globes, the 81st annual Golden Globes, and it's going to be me the whole time. Your host, Joe Coy, Golden Globe Awards. And I can't wait to see you guys there. I love it.
The comedian is known for his appearance in the film The Haunted Mansion, and Aquafina is Nora from Queens. Jokoy released 5 stand-up specials on Comedy Central and Netflix. This includes his most recent Netflix special, Live from the Los Angeles Forum. Next year's Golden Globes will be the first major broadcast of the awards season. The 81st Golden Globe ceremony will occur in Beverly Hills on January 7th.
I'm wearing the Friday smile because it's Friday.
Happy weekend, everyone.
And to end the week, here's a quote from American rapper Michael Ray Stevenson, known professionally as Tyga. We can admire what we see, but we can only love what we truly know.
And this might inspire us throughout the weekend to get to know the people around us more, to get to know the purpose of the things that we do, and to just really embrace everything.
And I think that the more you get to know life, the more you grow to love it.
Oh, I love that. Again, happy weekend to us all. That's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Elago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing. Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International as your trusted news source, keeping you connected to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.